when he was lying there, I knew that he was injured.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most insane, horrendous, and shocking fouls in footballing history. We'll explore what happened on the fateful day and the aftermath for the victim and perpetrator.
The tone was set. The Battle of Nuremberg had begun.
Number 20. Leonardo on Tab Ramos. When appearing in international football's biggest tournament, you'd expect players to be on their best behavior. But no, not Brazil's Leonardo.
And Leonardo has had a lot of activity so far today.
On America's Independence Day, the host nation US took on the South Americans at the 1994 FIFA World Cup. But all the USA coincidences didn't aid midfielder Tab Ramos. Near the end of the first half, seemingly from nothing, Leonardo swung his arm and elbowed Ramos in the head.
And in all of this, we forget that Tab's still down on the ground.
The strike was so bad that the then Real Betis player had a fractured skull that put him in the hospital for 3.5 months. After being sent off, Leonardo was banned for 4 matches, ruling him out for the rest of the tournament that Brazil went on to win. Number 19. Georges Santos on Andy Johnson. In 2002, Sheffield United faced West Bromwich Albion in what's been called the Battle of Bramall Lane.
Sheffield United's problems started in just the 9th minute. Keeper Simon Tracy sent off for handling outside the area.
It was a brutal affair, filled with horrendous tackles, red cards, and injuries. Due to the Blades not having enough players, the match was abandoned, and the Baggies were awarded a 3-0 win. The most horrendous moment involved United's Santos and West Brom's Johnson. The year before, Johnson had elbowed the Cape Verde international, giving him a fractured eye socket.
Santos had history with West Brom's Andy Johnson. The last time they faced each other, a collision between the two left Santos with a broken eye socket.
On this day, Santos sought revenge. In the second half, he launched into a vicious 2-footed lunge on Johnson, taking little regard for the ball. On top of being sent off, United's manager refused to play Santos again, and he departed the club later. Number 18. Carlos Tevez on Ezequiel Ham. In 2015, the legendary Argentine forward Tevez returned to his first professional club, Boca Juniors. Not long after the hometown hero's return, he did something horrendous. With Boca facing Argentino Juniors, he absolutely messed up. As Tevez challenged Ham, his boot went over the ball, and his studs stuck the midfielder's ankle. Immediately, the damage was obvious. With an open fracture on the ankle, Ham was taken to the hospital, where Tevez later visited him and apologized. Amazingly, the striker wasn't even booked for causing the injury, which would have sent him off as he already received a yellow. It took Ham 610 days to make his return to the pitch. Number 17. Zinedine Zidane on Marco Materazzi. Sometimes the craziest fouls are not due to the violence. Sometimes it's down to the absurd context. In the final of the 2006 World Cup, the legendary French captain and midfielder Zidane was set to retire from football after the game.
It wasn't supposed to end this way. One of the game's greatest ever players playing his last game as a professional in the biggest fixture on the planet.
But instead of inspiring his nation to beat Italy, he destroyed their chances in extra time. After words were exchanged with Materazzi, Zidane headbutted the defender in the chest.
What was Zidane thinking of? Zinedine Zidane's career ends with being sent off in the World Cup final.
This act saw the icon get sent off, as Italy went on to beat France on penalties. Despite this, Zidane was still awarded the Golden Ball, the tournament's best player. He was suspended for 3 games, but due to retirement, he agreed to do community service for FIFA instead. Number 16. Neil Simpson on Ian Durant. This game in the Scottish Premier Division in 1988 between Rangers and Aberdeen really added gasoline to the emerging rivalry between these two clubs.
With both teams meeting again in the Skull Cup final on the 23rd, this is also an important dress rehearsal.
Only a few minutes into the game, the ball got loose near the Rangers' box. The up-and-coming Durant went to gain possession. However, Aberdeen's Simpson had other ideas. The midfielder went over the ball and stamped down on the outstretched leg of Durant. Shockingly, Simpson wasn't sent off.
Getting it away in the thick of things. Durant going down as Simpson went right over that one. And Rangers players incensed by that challenge as Simpson went right over the ball there.
While the Rangers midfielder had to be stretched off as he had sustained a double cruciate ligament tear. Durant didn't return to competitive football until 1991 and was a very different player. In 1993, after taking Simpson and Aberdeen to court for £2 million for the brutal injury, the case was settled. Number 15. Rashid Bazan on Niels Kokmeijer. In 2004, Kokmeijer was finding his feet at Go Ahead Eagles, having joined the Dutch side that season, while Bazan was only in his second professional season with Sparta Rotterdam, having come through their youth system. When the two teams met in the Eerste Divisie, everything changed. Incredibly reckless, Bazan lunged at Kokmeijer as he cleared the ball, missing it and striking his right leg with his studs up, breaking it instantly. Due to the severity of the injury, Kokmeijer had to retire. As well as the KNVB banning Bazan for 10 games, Sparta suspended him for the rest of the season. In an unusual move, the Dutch government took Bazan to court for battery, where he received a 6-month suspended sentence. Number 14. Kevin Musket on Adrien Zara. After a career of horrendous tackles, starting fights, and poor discipline, in 2011, Musket was in the twilight of his career at Melbourne Victory.
Brilliantly worked from the Melbourne Victory. 1-0 up on 10 minutes.
Then, his team faced local rivals Melbourne Heart, now known as Melbourne City. With the score locked at 2-2 late in the second half, Zara ran down the wing towards the victory box. Musket slid in, well over the ball, and clattered into Zara's legs, flipping him in the air and nearly landing horribly on his neck.
Musket, he's off again. A second straight red card for Kevin Musket, and he didn't even see a second yellow. It's a straight red for the Victory captain.
The controversial captain was sent off and later got an 8-game ban. Zara's season was over as he needed surgery to repair his knee ligaments. Afterward, Musket announced his retirement at the end of the season, ending his 21-year career. Number 13. Mario David on Lionel Sanchez. All the way back in 1962, one of the most violent football matches of all time happened. During the World Cup, host nation Chile faced Italy in a group match famously known as the Battle of Santiago, where nasty challenges and punches were flying everywhere.
The 1962 World Cup in Chile played host to one of the dirtiest matches in football history, and not a single card was shown.
In the first half, after being fouled by David, Chile's Sanchez connected with a left hook. Amazingly, the ref did nothing. Shortly after, David got his revenge with one of the most over-the-top tackles ever. Just before Sanchez received a lofted pass, David ran behind him and booted him in the head. Absurd. David was unsurprisingly sent off. Sanchez stayed on the pitch and punched Italy's Umberto Maschio, breaking his nose, and still wasn't sent off.
But the match left an awful mark on the game.
Number 12. Brian McClair and Denis Irwin on David Boost. Sometimes horror injuries can be a complete accident. In 1996, Coventry City faced Manchester United in the Premier League. City defender Boost went up for a corner. Yet during the scramble in the box, he awkwardly collided with McClair and Irwin. Immediately, United's goalkeeper Peter Schmeichel put the ball out as the damage was clear to see.
And somebody's hurt. Maybe David Boost.
Boost had compound fractures in his tibia and fibula. It took 9 minutes to stretcher him off and remove signs of the injury from the pitch. Boost altogether had 22 operations on the injury, and at one point, picked up the infection MRSA. He nearly had the leg amputated. Boost never played professionally again.
Well, this is one of the boxes of the good luck cards and get well cards and wishing me well after my injury.
However, amazingly, he did manage to play amateur football years after. Number 11. Martin Taylor on Eduardo da Silva. In 2008, Eduardo was enjoying his first season with Arsenal when his club faced Birmingham City in the Premier League. Minutes into kickoff, the trajectory of his career negatively changed. Picking up the ball in City's half, Eduardo ran towards the box. Then defender Taylor slid in with his studs up.
As soon as the ref branded the red card, I knew that then that the Arsenal players' horrified expressions, our players' horrified expressions right away that it was a serious injury.
He missed the ball and put his momentum into Eduardo's standing leg. The horrific challenge caused a compound fracture of the Croatia international's fibula and dislocated his ankle. Taylor was shown a red card straight away.
He's sent off. 2 minutes gone, and this is very nasty.
The City defender stated he visited Eduardo in the hospital. However, the striker had no memory of that or the tackle. It took Eduardo a year to return to the pitch, but he was a very different player. Number 10. Paul Bosvelt on Denis Irwin. In 1997, Feyenoord hosted Manchester United in a group game for the Champions League.
I was just going to say Cole's made it again. Hat-trick for Cole. Brilliant.
With United up 3-0 in the 80th minute from an Andy Cole hat trick, Dutch midfielder Bosvelt let his frustrations out in the worst way possible. As Irwin passed the ball, Bosvelt put his studs into the side of the defender's knee. United manager Sir Alex Ferguson was livid on the sidelines, and rightly so. Not only wasn't Bosvelt sent off, but he didn't even get a yellow card before being subbed shortly after the horror challenge. Irwin suffered from ruptured medial ligaments, which ruled him out of World Cup qualifiers for the Republic of Ireland. After seeing replays of the tackle, Bosvelt apologized to Irwin, which the Irishman accepted. Number 9. Andoni Goicoechea on Diego Maradona. When facing the best player in the world, one tactic is to intimidate them. Usually this would be shirt-pulling or trash-talking. Well, Athletic Bilbao center-back Goicoechea took it to the extreme as his side faced a Maradona-led Barcelona side in 1983. With the Argentine getting the ball, Goicoechea slid in from behind, striking Maradona's ankle and breaking it. This tackle, which was basically assault, was slammed by the Spanish media. Goicoechea earned the nickname the Butcher of Bilbao, and he was suspended for 10 games. In 1984, the animosity between the sides erupted again in the Copa del Rey final, when Maradona fought with Bilbao and Goicoechea before his teammates joined in, causing a mass brawl. Number 8. Ben Thatcher on Pedro Mendes. Welsh left-back Thatcher would have been more at home in the UFC than on a soccer pitch. After already getting in trouble for elbowing Nicky Summerbee in 2000, you'd hope that he would have learned from his attack. But no. In 2006, while playing for Manchester City against Portsmouth, he repeated his previous attack. As Portsmouth's Mendes ran to get to the ball, Thatcher came charging in and elbowed the Portuguese player in the face, knocking him out and sending him crashing into the advertisement boards.
Mendes, oh dear.
Now I've seen it again, he's late.
That was an ugly challenge.
Mendes needed oxygen at the pitch side and suffered a seizure. He thankfully recovered. Thatcher was only initially booked for his brutality, but City banned him for 6 games along with a fine, while the FA later suspended Thatcher for 8 matches.
Away from the pitch, you couldn't meet a nicer lad than Ben. But on the field, he is capable of those things, and what he did tonight was horrendous. It was totally out of order.
Number 7. Axel Witsel on Marcin Wasilewski. Witsel has been seen as a creative midfielder throughout his career, not for horrifying challenges that left opponents in immense pain. But that was the case in 2009. On that fateful day, Witsel's Standard Liège took on Anderlecht. With the ball loose, the Belgian player tried to beat Wasilewski to the prize. Instead, with a massive lapse in judgment, Witsel put his weight on the Polish defender's outstretched leg, visually snapping it in an instant. With Anderlecht players and coaches erupting in anger, the ref unsurprisingly sent off Witsel. Afterward, the Belgium FA, the RBFA, suspended Witsel for 8 games after an appeal, while Wasilewski had surgery to repair his fractured tibia and fibula. Number 6. Ryan Shawcross on Aaron Ramsey. In 2010, Welsh international Ramsey was one of the hottest prospects in the sport for Arsenal.
Base maybe for Ramsey, he's in here, Aaron Ramsey all the way!
But his potential took a battering when his side faced Stoke City in the Premier League. With a 50-50 challenge, Shawcross and Ramsey both went for the ball. However, an error in judgment by the Stoke defender caused him to kick into the Welshman's legs. Immediately, it was obvious some severe damage had been done.
He's in real trouble here. Aaron Ramsey on the ground. Ryan Shawcross gets a red card.
Both sets of players looked distraught at what had happened. Shawcross was shown a straight red and left the pitch in tears. Ramsey had broken his tibia and fibula.
Physically is as well as you can be when you have a broken leg. The first signs are good. Mentally is very down, of course. It's difficult to take. He was just coming into the team.
It took until 2013, after a couple of loan moves to gain match fitness, for him to return fully to the Arsenal first team. Number 5. Benjamin Massing on Claudio Caniggia. If you've ever played the beautiful game, sometimes you might get a bit frustrated as a skillful player makes your team look really bad as they dribble their way through the pitch. But the worst thing to do is let that annoyance consume you. Well, in Group B's first fixture at the 1990 World Cup, Cameroon had a surprise 1-0 lead against defending champions Argentina.
On the goal! could score.
As the ball came to winger Caniggia in his half, he ran rings around several Cameroon players as he aimed for their goal. Losing his balance after a seemingly bad challenge, Caniggia was still going. That was until defender Massing booted the Argentine so hard that his boot came off, earning himself a red card.
I think he has to, and he has. And you can't really argue with that one.
Number 4. Nigel de Jong on Xabi Alonso. The World Cup tends to bring out the best and worst in players. And for the Netherlands' de Jong, it was definitely the latter. Playing on a team dripping with talent, the Dutch faced an iconic Spain squad in the 2010 final.
Only the Netherlands and Spain are left with the chance to proclaim themselves champions of the world in 2010.
Only 28 minutes into the match, de Jong set the standard of the match since there were 14 yellow cards and 1 red. As Alonso headed the ball, the then Man City midfielder decided to do what can only be described as some kind of karate move.
Salto Xavi que se queda solo ahí ante Van Bommel. Vaya.
He struck Alonso in the chest with his studs, leaving Spain's midfield general in pain. Shockingly, the referee, Howard Webb, only gave de Jong a yellow card, a move he later regretted once he saw the replay.
Sí que es cierto que cuando nosotros lo teníamos, pues se emplearon de forma dura, ¿no?
We hadden helemaal geen plan om fysiek te spelen.
Number 3. Norbert Sigman on IOD Lan. As far as the most graphic injuries in this video go, this one gets the gold prize. In 1981, in Germany's Bundesliga, Lan, playing for Arminia Bielefeld, descended towards Werder Bremen's box.
Match day 2 of the 1981-1982 season. Werder Bremen host Arminia Bielefeld, and 20 minutes into the game, IOD Lan is fouled.
But Sigman had another idea and lunged in recklessly. Now, we don't know how sharp 80 studs were, but apparently very. A large 10-inch wound had formed on Lan's thigh. Somehow, the midfielder got up and argued with people on the sidelines.
But I do think that everyone who saw the incident close up can confirm that he was encouraged to be more aggressive with his foul.
With damage like that, Sigman was sent off, right? Nope. He only got a yellow card for that horror. It took 23 stitches to repair the damage for Lan. Amazingly, he was back in training only 17 days after this tackle.
Some of them enter into a challenge knowing that the risk of injuring their opponent is high and try to get a sporting advantage through unfair play.
Number 2. Harald Schumacher on Patrick Battiston. The semi-final match between West Germany and France at the 1982 World Cup is seen as an action-packed classic bout. But this battle was very nearly tarnished by one idiotic incident.
However, no one had forecast just how highly charged it would be.
As Francis Battiston was bearing down on the German goal, he saw keeper Schumacher charging at him. And that was probably the last thing he remembered from that game. As Battiston's shot went wide, Schumacher violently collided with him.
Battiston found himself through on goal with only goalkeeper Harald Schumacher to beat.
Battiston could be in!
The defender was knocked unconscious, had 2 teeth knocked out, received 3 cracked ribs, and damaged his vertebrae. He received oxygen on the pitch and slipped into a coma. Battiston's teammates thought he had perished. Thankfully, he recovered. But even more shockingly, the ref didn't even give a foul, let alone send off Schumacher. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Roy Keane on Alfie Holland. In 1997, a clash between Keane and Holland while he was playing for Leeds United resulted in a torn anterior cruciate ligament for the Irishman. Not knowing the severity of the injury, the Norwegian screamed at him.
The Irishman aimed a trip at the Norwegian before stumbling and falling to the ground in agony. Holland, on seeing Keane writhing on the floor, got to his feet, ran over to Keane before standing over and berating him.
Well, Keane doesn't let things go. In 2001, Manchester United and Manchester City faced off. During the match, Keane purposely missed the ball and stamped into Holland's right leg, which struck his injured left.
Roy Keane on Holland. David Ellery has a record of dismissing Roy Keane from the field of play.
While Keane was sent off, it was when he released his autobiography a year later that it got more dramatic. In it, he stated that he did the brutal tackle on purpose.
I'd waited long enough. I hit him hard. The ball was there, I think. Take that, you and don't ever stand over me sneering about fake injuries.
For that, Keane received a further ban and a fine. Holland never really recovered from his already injured left knee and retired in 2003. What's the greatest goal line clearance by an outfielder in footballing history? Niklas Süle against Kylian Mbappé? Andy Robertson against Jean-Philippe Mateta? Bacary Sagna against Gabriel Agbonlahor, or something else? Let us know below.
What an amazing clearance by Zara off the line. Goodness gracious me.
Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.